As some of you know who've been on the Morgan Outliner 41 Facebook owners page, I've been working on building a 1000 amp hour lithium ion battery pack. I've had a lot of requests to do some videos about how I'm doing this, so this is what I'm going to cover initially. If you're watching this, this is not necessarily a how-to for you. This is simply a how I did. So if you follow this video and things don't go right, don't bother to call an attorney, a practitioner of the dark arts, because I'm just as poor as you are. So here we go. The basis of the battery pack that I'm building is these Veru's end battery caps that snap together and are solderless. You can order them online. They come in boxes of 40, and this is one box of 40 here. So I'll open it up and show you guys what comes in that one box and what you can expect. It comes with a set of large zip ties used to help keep your back stable once you've built it. Comes with these 5.5 millimeter screws that go onto the end cap. Comes with a set of bus bars and connectors that go onto the end cap as well. So here they are. These are the connectors that you can use. And here are the small bus bars used to connect the battery end caps. Here are the battery end caps. There's two colors, blue and red. And if you look at them, they have a pair of slots on two sides and a pair of fingers on the other side. They work much like a mortise and tenon arrangement. You just slide them together and build your battery pack in any configuration that you want. Now, Veru's design is for you to use these bus bars to make your connections. And hook them up using these little 5 millimeter screws. I didn't use the bus bars because I have individually fused each cell. Just a little bit safer to do it that way. So that's how I've done it. I use red for positive and blue for negative on the batteries. And I have built my battery packs in a 10 by 10 configuration. Here's the beginning of a pack that I'm working on. You can see the ends. The lithium batteries press in there. On the inside, they have a little spring and the screw on the outside. So what I do is I put these together in rows of 10. And then I mount the batteries in one row of 10. Press caps on, and then take each one of those and build the battery bank up one row at a time until I get to 10 rows. So my bank is 10 rows by 10 rows. Gives you a nice big square. Here we see the pack completely constructed. What I'm doing now is taking a rubber mallet, tapping everything down, top, bottom, left, and right, making sure everything's nice and tight. After that, it's a good practice to go around and check each cell and make sure you've got voltage showing. If there's no voltage showing, then you need to re-tap that cell, packing the left and right, positive, negative, one more time. Then double check again to make sure that you once again have voltage on all of your ends. The first part of building the wiring for the battery banks is to individually fuse each cell. To do this, I'm using 1/4 amp fuses that I purchased off of Amazon. They're not that much, $3-4, and you get 500-600 fuses. So what I do is I cut the wires off and use those to fuse each cell. Now with the fuses cut off and the remaining wire, I use needle nose pliers to put a loop on the end and a 5.5mm socket to loosen the nut, place the wire underneath the nut, and tighten them up. Here you see one side of the battery pack completed with each cell individually fused. You'll notice that every 2 rows face one another. This is so that in the next step we're going to place secondary bus bars in between those 2 rows and solder them up. In order to make the primary and secondary bus bars, I use copper strapping from the plumbing department, which you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot, and cut to length. I cut the length a little bit longer so that I would have the opportunity to line up the screw holes for mounting, which I'll show you in the following step. I cut the primary and secondary bus bars exactly the same length. Here you see one of the bus bars cut to length. I use stainless steel number 8 1/2-inch screws with washers to mount them to the battery pack. I found that 3 to 4 of the holes will line up with the intersection of 4 of the end caps. The 1/2-inch screws then go through the hole and into that space between the 4 corners of the battery caps to hold them down. This makes it possible to then solder the fuses onto the secondary bus bars, and the screws give you some additional holding power so you don't have to rely solely on the soldered connection. Here we see all the secondary bus bars hooked up to the battery pack with the fuse leads folded over ready for solder. You do this on both the positive and negative side of the battery. Your next step is to get a really good hot soldering gun. The hotter the better. And solder all of your fuses onto the secondary bus bars. Here you see a pack with all the soldering completed. Your next step is to hook up the primary bus bar. Using one of your previously cut copper strapping strips, I bolted them on with 8/32 stainless steel nuts, bolts, and washers. Here, 2 to 3 holes pretty much would line up. I bolted them down tight and then drilled the holes to complete the last 1 to 2 connections and you have the primary bus bars on each side, positive and negative, hooked up, ready to go. So here you see one completed pack, 10 rows by 10 rows. Each one has a small wire fuse from the cell to the secondary bus bar, which is just copper stripping. The fuse wires are off a 1/4 amp resistor. Just cut the end wires off, screw them around the end of the Vlog008 battery cap, and solder them to the bus bars. Then I connect all of the sub bus bars to a main bus bar across the top. So here you can see that completed here. Then my goal is to build 4 of these packs. These are all cooked up in parallel. So this battery pack here is 980 amp hours. So it's roughly 1,000. Then hook 4 of these into series, which will give me 15.2 volts when fully charged. But it's not my goal or intention to fully charge these batteries, as it's easier on lithium ions not to 100% charge them. So that's an overview of what I'm doing and what I plan to do. I'll do additional videos that go into a little more detail, constructing each one of the sub battery banks. And after that's done, then I'll do a video showing how all 4 are hooked up into one large battery with a BMS system and cell balancers. So if you're watching this video, really appreciate you stopping by. And if you are watching this video, click down there on the bottom, give us a subscription. We'd really appreciate it. If you're a real glutton for punishment, you can head over to SV Rock Chalk's Patreon page and sign up and help support these videos, because God knows they could use a little bit of support in order to get better. So all of you out there, especially those people on the Morgan Out Islander Owners Facebook page, for all of your questions and concerns, I appreciate it. And stop back in and we'll be updating what's going on with this battery pack, and also with what's going on with the haul out and updates for this winter. So until then, thank you very much.